Hey, what's up guys? John here. In February of 2020, during the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was very scared and the stock market took a massive dive because of it. The federal government responded by reducing interest rates, issuing PPP loans, stimulus, and unemployment benefits, as well as other support mechanisms to keep the economy going. They issued eviction moratoriums. They did a variety of these new measures that we've never before seen in many cases, and it's given people a false sense of security in the market. And right now, many investors think that they're just going to do the same thing again. However, those tools are no longer in their toolbox, and they have to do something, and something very, very massive. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I think they are going to do, and it's going to be the stage collapse of this economy and what you can do to protect yourself and how you can invest going forward to insulate yourself from what I believe is going to be a very massive crash. Please smash that like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate other people about what's really going on that the mainstream's not talking about. So please hit that like button. Let's begin. Now, over the last couple years, we've seen a lot of attention hit the real estate space with both new investors and experienced investors. Everyone wants to get a piece of the real estate market. They generally want to do either house flipping, they want to do wholesaling where they're essentially assigning contracts and making a fee on every deal, or the traditional BRRRR method where they go out there and buy up an old building or a building that they can extract value from. They fix it up, they increase that value, they rent it, they refinance it, take that money, buy other assets, build out a real estate portfolio, and over history, it's been proven to be very successful and it's worked very well. However, now these investors are going to get hit with a curveball, and this curveball has never before been seen in history. What we're going to see in 2022, as of now, really interest rates going up. They were talking 2 hikes, then 3, then 4 interest rate hikes in 2022 of about a 1/4 percentage point each, and a chance for a 5th hike in January, so potentially 5 interest rate hikes for 2022. So rates are going to be going up, meaning the cost to borrow money is going to go up. And when that happens, lenders generally a little bit more restrictive on who they're going to lend to. Lending requirements get much more strict, and home affordability generally comes down to meet the purchasing power of the buyers out there in the available market. So we're going to see some problems happen. Just to bring this into perspective, let's say that you are buying a $300,000 house or $350,000 house. You want to put $300,000 down, and the mortgage at that time is $1,429 a month at $300,000 fixed rate over 30 years. So if you were going to buy that property at 3.979% interest rate, and you brought it, just for example, to 1607 and a 1% interest rate increase, costs you an extra $180 per month for that single property, an extra $180 per month. Then what we're also looking at right now, which is going to impact the middle class more than anything, is going to be credit card debt. Because when interest rates rise, so does adjustable rate debt, such as car loans, credit cards, everything goes up. So the Federal Reserve is expected to raise rates 3 or 4 times this year, starting as early as March. That means anyone who carries a balance on their credit card will soon have to cough up more dough just to cover the interest charges. They go on to say, however, with several rate hikes on the horizon, credit card rates will be back to around 17% by year end, not far from their pre-pandemic high, according to Ted Roseman, right? If you're a consumer paying these rates, it's taking a very big bite, right? And so we're looking at the credit cards, we're like, okay, now we're seeing that home builder confidence is dropping. And they're dropping because of inflation. Higher material costs and lack of availability are adding weeks to typical single-family construction times. They're saying that their costs, residential construction materials, increased 19% since December 2020. Their margins are already very small. So when their costs are going up 19%, if home values are not going to follow that 19% trajectory, what's ultimately going to happen is that these builders could be facing a very, very big problem in the coming future. They go on to say the price of softwood lumber alone has jumped 85% in just the last 3 months, according to Random Lengths. Lumber prices spiked last spring and then came down dramatically over the summer. They're up again now. And the U.S. doubled tariffs on Canadian lumber and Western wildfire disrupted lumber protections. Prices for other materials like gypsum and steel are also higher, and the ongoing labor shortage has pushed costs up as well. So labor costs are going up, material costs are going up, supply chain issues are impacting building. And what we're now seeing also is, fascinatingly, everyone's been hearing a lot about this, is that rents are rising at a record level. And I think this key area has also brought a lot of attention for real estate investors to see this as a moment of opportunity to capitalize on this rising rent demand. So rents in New York and South Florida surged 30% nationwide, right? Cities led the rise 13%. So the average rent is 17.8%. That's how much it's increased. The staggering 17.8% in a single year. General rent appreciation is about 3%. So you're seeing, ballpark about 6 years worth of rent appreciation inside a single year. So you have rising utility cost, you have rising food cost, you have rising cost to borrow money. What is this going to equate to? It's going to equate to an affordability crisis that is looming on the horizon right now. And right now, your world on inflation shortages. This is what I also find very fascinating. Food prices up 6.3%, energy 29.3%, apparel about 6%, used cars about 37%, right? And electricity is going to continue going up. But wages are going up by about 3.4%. So if all of your expenses are going up by 6.3, or let's just call it a flat 20% across the board, and including rents. So if everything is going up by 20%, and then wages are only going up by 3.4%, the discrepancy is about 16.5%, meaning that if you are living in an expensive city, spending 40% or 50% of your gross monthly income on rent, then you factor in all these other expenses, your real household expense went up by 70% or more in many cases. The big question I ask myself is it sustainable on the long term? Is it really sustainable? A 3.4% raise, even if it went to 5% or 7% or even 10%, it would not combat the inflation problem and the rental raise problem. Wages would have to go up by 20 or 25% for them to offset. And so what I believe is going to happen is I believe that the $960 billion that private equity companies are sitting on right now in just cash, they're sitting there, they're going to wait for interest rates to rise, wait for some panic to set into the market. Then they're going to use that money and they're going to get very low interest rate debt from, the Fed and whoever else. And they're essentially going to be able to borrow money at 1% or 2% and get a really aggressive loan to value if they so wish, and go out there and just acquire a ton of assets. In this hyperinflationary environment that we're in, when we're in 20%, 30% in some sectors, inflation, that's hyperinflation. They're going to go out there and they're going to buy hard, real assets. That's what I believe they're going to do. And I think they're waiting for this opportunity that's going to be coming in 2022. They're not going to get so aggressive right now trying to compete in this market's manic in many cases. They're not going to go out there and try to compete and overpay for a property or an asset or a company or, like Microsoft just went out and did a very big buyout yesterday. They're not going to go out there and try to compete when they know that there's going to be, millions of opportunities out on the street potentially coming over the next year or so. When we're looking too at this issue where 15% of food supplies are now entirely out of stock, and they're blaming it on this, right? Saying that store clerk, factory workers, and drivers are forced to no longer work, right? So this is why I think this whole thing comes together so well for private equity. They have rising interest rates, they have higher wages, they have higher expenses because for them to have anything to sell, any of their services, products, everything is costing them more. And what is ultimately going to happen is that now they are forced to try to compete with a Walmart, with a Home Depot, with an Amazon, with a Target, all of which own their own distribution and supply chain. So they are distributing, they have full-fledged control over this. They're not dependent on traditional measures. So you have Costco, you have Walmart, you have Target, you have Amazon, you have Home Depot, all of which control their own supply. So what's ultimately going to happen is that the middle class stores are going to be really, really pushed into a corner. And then these big corporations are seized for the moment to go out there and acquire a large customer base, a larger customer base, right? Then we're looking at this scenario here where they're saying you could rent a robot worker for less than paying a human. And they go on to say, this is a small mom and pop business. He said you're paying about $8 an hour, about $8 an hour compared to $15 an hour for a minimum wage employee. And he says that the company name is Polar. He said you didn't need to pay $100,000 up front to buy the robot and then spend more money to get it programmed, which was crucial. Figueroa says that he'd like to see 25 robots on the line within 5 years. He doesn't envision replacing any company's 70 employees, but says Polar may not need to hire new workers, right? He doesn't envision this, but if wages get out of control and regulation gets out of control, he's going to be forced to do it. And if you can have a robot working 20 hours a day versus having a human employee working 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, you're probably going to do it, right? And so what I'm seeing here right now is I'm seeing us leading up to this point where we have to all take a hard look at what the smart money is doing. Smart money, a lot of smart money sitting on the sidelines. They know that challenges are coming ahead. We've looked at the stock market just so far, January 2022, we're seeing no longer the confidence that we saw last year. We're seeing changes in this market. I think the smart money right now, if you were, maybe you own a single family house, maybe you have a small business, it's to get your debt on fixed rate debt. So if you have a mortgage, you want to refi right now. My opinion, this isn't financial advice, my opinion is to refi and to get 30-year fixed rate debt. I think you'll be better off 30-year fixed rate debt than an adjustable. That's my opinion. And also credit card debt, I would restructure that if you could potentially restructure it and consolidate it to a point to where you can have fixed rate debt or lower payments, keep it a little bit more affordable. And I would downgrade whatever you have to make sure that you are not going to be caught off guard if this economy goes, array. I personally also think that we're going to be stepping into an environment where people are going to be basing their investments no longer on speculation like memes and a lot of random cryptos, hoping that it's a 10x or 100x gain. They're going to be investing based on sheer utility, real practical use. So make sure when you're investing right now that if you invest in something, is it going to be something that's going to be worth something if the market really dumps? If not, then I would only suggest investing what you're willing to lose. What are your thoughts on this economy? Do you believe that everything is going to happen as I'm claiming in this video? Drop your comments and your predictions for 2022 below. Hit the like button. Consider subbing here. Also consider subbing on my second channel. Catch you guys in the next video.